The restaurant was one of those places where silence costs extra. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, waiters who moved like ghosts. My father had chosen it specifically neutral territory for what he'd called an important family discussion. I should have known better. "You're making a mistake," he said, setting down his wine glass with the precision of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "This Jordan person, he's not our kind of people." I felt Jordan's hand find mine under the table. Steady, warm, real. "Dad, I love him. We're getting married whether you approve or not." My father's expression didn't change. That was worse than anger. He looked at me the way he looked at failed investments, disappointed but unsurprised. "Then you're out. Of the trust fund, the company, the family estate. All of it." Mom's fork clattered against her plate. My brother Josh shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Typical. "You're disowning me? Over who I marry?" "I'm protecting this family's very," says. Legacy from someone who clearly doesn't understand what we've built. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with theatrical finality. "When you're ready to come to your senses, we can discuss reinstating your position. Until then, you've made your choice." He walked out without paying the bill. Even his exits were calculated for maximum impact. I sat there, Jordan's hand still in mine, and realized I'd just been erased over dessert. My name is Layla Monroe. I'm 28 years old. I live in Seattle, or at least I did before everything changed. Daughter of Gregory Monroe, real estate developer, self-made millionaire, and walking demonstration of how success and cruelty can share the same body. He built his empire from scratch strip malls to luxury condos to commercial developments that reshaped city skylines. He raised me like I was part of his portfolio, curated, controlled, profitable. Private schools where my classmates' parents were politicians and CEOs. Summer programs at Yale and Stanford. Birthday parties that cost more than most people's weddings. Everything designed to mold me into the perfect Monroe daughter, polished, presentable, marriageable to the right kind of man. The right kind meant old money, or new money with the right connections. Ivy League educated. Family name that meant something in the circles my father valued. Jordan didn't fit any of those criteria, and that, apparently, made him worthless. Growing up, Monroe meant living in a golden prison. Beautiful bars, but bars nonetheless. I had everything except freedom. Everything except the right to choose my own path. My older brother Josh could skip classes, crash cars, show up drunk to family events all forgiven, with a laugh, and boys will be boys. I once wore the wrong shade of lipstick to a charity gala and got a 15-minute lecture about representing the family. Brand. The rules were clear. Josh was the heir. I was the ornament. He learned the business. I learned which fork to use at state dinners. He made mistakes. I made appearances. I was expected to smile, marry well, and produce grandchildren who'd carry on the Monroe name. My dreams, my preferences, my actual personality, all irrelevant data points in my father's master plan. I tried rebelling in small ways. Majored in nonprofit management instead of business. Volunteered at homeless shelters instead of country clubs. Dated a musician for 3 months until my father convinced him that dating me wasn't worth the trouble his family connections could cause. By the time I met Jordan, I'd learned to keep my real life separate. Keep what mattered hidden. Because the moment my father knew something was important to me, it became leverage. I met Jordan at a tech policy panel I was moderating for a nonprofit. The panel was boring venture capitalists discussing disruption in that self-congratulatory way. Rich people talk about innovation without risk. Jordan was the last panelist, youngest by a decade. No designer suit, just clean jeans and a button-down. No flashy watch. No rehearsed TED Talk cadence. When asked about his company's success, he said, "We solve problems people actually have. Everything else is noise." The other panelists looked annoyed. I was fascinated. After the event, he helped me stack chairs while everyone else networked with wine and business cards. "You don't have to do that," I said. "Neither do you." But here we are. We talked for 2 hours about real things, childhood, fears, what success actually meant beyond bank accounts. He told me about his software company, how he'd built infrastructure tools that helped cities manage resources more efficiently. "It's not sexy," he admitted. "Nobody writes articles about optimized water management systems." But it matters. He remembered my dog's name after I mentioned it once, held doors without making it a performance, asked questions, and actually listened to answers. My father would have hated him on a sight, which was, I realized later, part of why I fell so hard. We dated for 8 months before I told my family. I'd learned to protect what I loved, but eventually, Jordan deserved to meet them. Deserved to be part of my whole life, not just the hidden pieces. I brought him to Sunday brunch. My father assessed him the way he assessed property's quick, dismissive evaluation. "What do you do, Jordan?" "I run a software company. Infrastructure technology. Tech." My father said it like a diagnosis. "Saturated market. What makes you different?" "We're profitable. We solve real problems. And we work with municipalities, which means stable contracts." "Sounds very pedestrian." Jordan smiled. "It's honest work." My father had already stopped listening, turned to Josh and started discussing a new commercial development. Jordan was dismissed. Irrelevant. After brunch, Dad pulled me aside. "He's not right for this family, Layla. You barely spoke to him." "I don't need to. I can see. What he is middle class with delusions of adequacy. You marry him, you'll regret it. And more importantly, you'll embarrass this family. I love him. You're infatuated. There's a difference. Marry someone appropriate or marry him, but you can't have both him and your place in this family." I looked at him standing there, so certain of his power, so convinced I'd choose family money over personal happiness. Then I choose him. His expression went cold. "You have 1 week to reconsider. After that, the decision becomes permanent." We got married 6 days later. Not out of spite, though, that was a factor, but because waiting felt like giving my father power he didn't deserve. Small ceremony in a cabin rental 2 hours outside Portland. Jordan's parents, his sister, my best friend Clara. That was it. No cathedral, no designer dress, no orchestra. Just us, promising forever in front of people who actually loved us without conditions. The cabin overlooked a lake, pine trees, everywhere. Rain tapping the roof during our vows, Jordan cried. I cried. His mom made a cake that was slightly lopsided and absolutely perfect. My phone buzzed during the reception. A message from my father's lawyer with a PDF attachment. Trust fund beneficiary removal, Layla Margaret Monroe. Below it, a note from Dad. You made your choice. Live with it. No congratulations, no well wishes, just legal documentation of my exile. Jordan saw my face. What's wrong? Nothing that matters. I put my phone away and danced with my husband while rain fell and the future felt uncertain but entirely ours. The reality of being disowned hit slowly. Like hypothermia you don't notice until you're already frozen. I'd always worked, had my own job at a nonprofit advocacy organization, but I'd also had a trust fund as backup. Credit cards on family accounts. The unspoken security of knowing that if anything went really wrong, there was a safety net. Now that net was gone. Jordan never made it. A thing. Never asked about money. Just quietly took over the rent on my apartment, folded me into his life without fanfare. But I cried. A lot. Those first few weeks, I'd wake up at 3 a.m. just sobbing into my pillow, trying not to wake Jordan. Because losing a parent while they're still alive is a specific kind of grief. They're out there, living their life, but you're dead to them. You can see them in the world, social media posts, news articles about the business, but you're erased from their story. My mother called once. Brief, uncomfortable. He's very hurt, Layla. He disowned me, Mom. I didn't do anything to him. You chose someone he doesn't approve of. That's hurtful. And cutting off your daughter isn't? Silence. Then, I should go. He'll be home soon. She never called again. 3 months after the wedding, my father hosted his annual investor gala. Massive event. 300 people, open bar, live music. Gregory Monroe at his most performative. Jordan and I weren't invited, obviously. But Clara was there, her law firm did work for one of the sponsors, and she sent me updates throughout the night. Your dad is holding court. Talking about some huge infrastructure deal. How huge? He literally said $12 million and legacy project in the same breath. I showed Jordan the text. He was on his laptop, working as usual. The municipal utilities upgrade, he said, without looking up. Yeah, I know about that. You know about my father's deal? It's not his deal. It's a city contract that requires our software. His company bid on the construction portion. But nothing moves without our licensing agreement. I set down my wine glass carefully. Your company is involved in this? We built the entire back-end infrastructure. Monitoring systems, resource allocation, predictive maintenance. The whole project runs on our platform. And you haven't signed the licensing agreement yet? He finally looked up. No, we've been in negotiations. Their legal team keeps trying to lowball us. We walked away twice. My father was bragging about a $12 million deal that required technology he didn't control. Technology owned by the poor man he'd dismissed without a second thought. The irony was delicious. Jordan went back to his laptop. I watched him work the same focused expression he always had, completely unaware of the power he held. My father had never asked what Jordan did. Never Googled him. Never asked a single follow-up question beyond that dismissive, "What do you do?" at brunch. Because in Gregory Monroe's world, if you weren't wearing the right watch or attending the right schools or connected to the right families, you weren't worth investigating. He'd looked at Jordan and seen nothing, a blank space where importance should be. He'd never considered that the quiet guy in jeans might be the one controlling whether his legacy project happened at all. I pulled up Jordan's company website. Slate Infrastructure, Technologies. Their client list included 15 major cities, 2 state governments, and the Department of Energy. His company wasn't flashy, wasn't featured in tech magazines or startup podcasts. Because the work was boring water systems, power grids, municipal resource management. But it was essential, and Jordan owned it outright. No investors, no board, just him and his team, solving problems nobody else wanted to touch. My father thought he'd cut off a foolish daughter who'd married beneath her station. He'd actually cut off his only connection to the person who could make or break his biggest deal in years. Jordan sent the email at 9:47 p.m. that Saturday. I was in the shower. When I came out, he was staring at his laptop with an unreadable expression. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I just declined the Monroe Development Licensing Agreement. I froze. Towel wrapped around me, water dripping onto the hardwood. You what? They've been stalling for 3 months, trying to negotiate down to rates that don't make sense. And honestly, he closed the laptop. I'm not interested in working with your father. Jordan, that's a huge contract. It's a headache. We have other projects, better clients, people who actually respect our work. He said it so casually, like he hadn't just detonated a bomb under my father's biggest deal. The email was professional, brief. Per Clause 4.2 of the preliminary agreement, Slate Infrastructure Technologies is formally declining to proceed with licensing negotiations. All proprietary rights remain with Slate. We wish you success in finding alternative solutions. No explanation, no emotion, just a clean exit. What happens to their project now? I asked. They'll have to find different software, rebuild the entire back end, probably add 18 months to the timeline. Maybe longer if they can't find something that integrates with existing city systems. And if they can't, he shrugged. Then the deal dies. Cities won't. Wait forever. They'll find other contractors. My father's $12 million legacy project just became a $12 million disaster, and he'd never see it coming. The consequences arrived faster than I expected. Within 48 hours, engineers on my father's project started asking questions. Where was the software integration timeline? Who was handling back-end development? When would licensing be finalized? The project manager realized the problem first. Sent an urgent email to my father's office. Clara forwarded me a screenshot. Her firm was CC'd on correspondence. Critical issue, software licensing agreement terminated by Slate Infrastructure. No viable alternative identified. Project timeline in jeopardy. By Wednesday, 3 engineers had quit. They'd signed on specifically to work with Slate's platform considered the industry standard. Without it, the project became exponentially harder. By Friday, permits stalled. The city's technology review board put everything on hold pending confirmation of infrastructure specifications. The $12 million pipeline had no engine, and my father was finally starting to understand why. He called on Saturday morning. I was at the farmer's market with Jordan, buying overpriced organic vegetables like we were normal people without family drama. My phone rang. Gregory Monroe. I almost didn't answer. Let it go to voicemail. But curiosity won. Layla, his voice was controlled, too controlled. We need to talk, do we? I wasn't aware of your husband's professional position. You never asked. I'm asking now. Can we meet? Discuss the situation? What situation? Don't play games. I know he's involved in the municipal utilities contract. Involved? He owns the only software that makes your project possible. And you called him pedestrian. Silence. Long, uncomfortable silence. I may have been hasty in my initial assessment. You disowned me, Dad. You didn't just dislike Jordan, you cut me out of your life for marrying. People make mistakes in anger. You weren't angry, you were cruel. There's a difference. Layla, please, let's be adults about this. We can fix this situation if we work together. Why would I want to fix your situation? Because I'm your father. You stopped being my father when you chose your pride over your daughter. Now you're just Gregory Monroe, a businessman who made a bad bet. I hung up. Jordan raised an eyebrow. That was cold. That was honest. The second call came 3 days later, Tuesday evening. Jordan and I were making dinner. He was chopping vegetables. I was attempting to cook pasta without burning it. Domestic bliss interrupted by my phone. Dad again. This time I put him on speaker. Layla, I'm asking you to reconsider. This deal means a lot to the company. I'm not involved in your business, remember? You made that very clear. Your husband is, though. And you have influence. I have no influence. Jordan makes his own business decisions based on what's best for his company. Then, as his wife, surely you can encourage him to reconsider. This benefits everyone. Jordan set down his knife. Mr. Monroe, this is Jordan. I'm not reconsidering. Your team spent 3 months trying to undervalue our work. That's insulting. The fact that you now need us doesn't change the fundamental lack of respect. We can discuss better terms. No, we're done. Move forward with a different contractor, different software, whatever you need to do. But Slate isn't participating. You're letting a family dispute destroy a major project? You let a family dispute destroy your relationship with your daughter. I'm just running my business according to our standards. Silence. Then the call ended without goodbye. I looked at Jordan. Thank you. For what? For being exactly who you are. My father showed up at our condo the following Saturday. No warning, no call, just knocked on our door at 9 a.m. like he had the right. I was still in, remember, pajamas, coffee in hand. Opened the door and found him standing there in a full suit despite it being the weekend, holding a leather portfolio like he was attending a board meeting. Layla, I need 10 minutes. No, please. I'm trying to make this right. You can't make this right. You can only stop making it worse. Let me try. Against my better judgment, I let him in. Jordan was in the kitchen. Didn't come out. Just stayed there. A quiet presence. My father sat on our second-hand couch, the one Jordan bought at an estate sale, worlds away from the designer furniture in the Monroe family estate. I was wrong, he said. About Jordan. About this marriage. I didn't understand what he'd built. You didn't try to understand. You dismissed him because he didn't match your aesthetic. I'm asking you to help me fix this situation. The utilities project without Slate's software, the entire deal collapses. I've already lost 2 investors. If this falls through, the company takes a major hit. So, you want me to convince Jordan to save your deal? I want us to work together as a family. Family? I laughed. Actually laughed. You disowned me, cut me off, didn't send flowers for my wedding, didn't call, didn't text, erased me completely. And now that you need something, suddenly I'm family again? I'm trying to apologize. No, you're trying to salvage a business deal. That's not the same thing. Jordan appeared in the kitchen doorway. Mr. Monroe, I think it's time for you to leave. My father stood, looked at Jordan with something new, not respect exactly, but recognition, the acknowledgement that he'd misjudged something important. I'll reinstate Layla's trust fund. Put her back in the company, whatever you need. We don't need anything from you, Jordan said calmly. We're good. Thanks, though. He walked to the door, opened it, waited. My father left without another word. The deal collapsed by the end of the month. Without Slate's infrastructure, software, the project timeline extended from 18 months to potentially 4 years. The city wasn't willing to wait. Other contractors submitted competing bids with realistic timelines. Monroe Development pulled out before they were officially rejected. Strategic repositioning, the press release said. Industry people knew what that meant. Failure. 2 more major contracts fell through by association. Investors started asking uncomfortable questions. Stock prices slipped not dramatically, but noticeably. My father's reputation as the reliable closer, the guy who delivered on promises, started showing cracks. Clara sent updates from inside the legal circles. Everyone knows what happened. The daughter's husband held the keys, and Gregory burned that bridge. The story was too perfect not to spread. Business communities love watching powerful people self-destruct through arrogance. The press leak happened 3 weeks after the deal died. Someone and I genuinely don't know who sent internal documents to a real estate industry blog, email chains showing Monroe Development's project managers discussing the Slate problem, legal memos about software licensing complications, and one particularly damning email from my father to his COO. The daughter married the tech guy. I didn't realize he controlled critical infrastructure. Find out if we can leverage family connection for better terms. The headline: Monroe Development CEO's family drama sinks $12M deal, daughter married the man who owns the tech stack. The article went viral in industry circles. Comments were brutal. Imagine being so arrogant you don't research your daughter's husband, and he ends up controlling your biggest project. This is why nepotism and family business don't mix. Gregory Monroe thought he was cutting off dead weight. Turned out he was cutting off his own lifeline. My phone exploded. Reporters, industry contacts, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone wanted the story. I said nothing. Let the facts speak for themselves. Josh called 2 days after the article dropped. My brother, who'd said nothing when I was disowned, suddenly had opinions. Layla, this is getting out of control. The company's reputation is taking damage. You need to fix this. I need to fix it? Jordan has to sign the deal. Be the bigger person. The bigger person? Josh, Dad disowned me, didn't come to my wedding, treated my husband like garbage. And now that it's costing him money, suddenly I'm supposed to rescue his pride? This affects the whole family. I'm not part of the family, remember? Dad made that very clear. He made a mistake. He made a choice. Choices have consequences. This is his. You're being vindictive. I'm being consistent. I'm applying the same standards he applied to me. When you're out, you're out. No takebacks just because it's suddenly inconvenient. Layla, Josh, where were you when he cut me off? Did you defend me? Did you tell him he was wrong? Or did you just nod along because it didn't affect you? Silence. That's what I thought. Don't call me about fixing things you helped break. I hung up. Blocked his number. Family only matters when it's convenient. When it costs them something, suddenly there are rules about loyalty. My mother tried next. Late night call. Her voice small, tired. Layla, sweetheart, your father isn't sleeping, isn't eating. This is destroying him. I wasn't sleeping either. For months after he disowned me, you just never noticed. We were upset. No. You were disappointed that I didn't follow the script. There's a difference. He's your father. He loves you. If this is what love looks like in our family, I'm glad I left. Please, just talk to Jordan. Ask him to reconsider. We can all move past this. Mom, I'm not asking my husband to save the man who called him worthless. I'm not doing that. If Dad wants to fix this, he needs to fix himself first, and apologizing, because he needs something, isn't fixing anything. She was crying now. I don't know how to make this right. You could have stood up for me. Any time in the past 6 months. You chose not to. That's your answer. Layla, I have to go, Mom. Jordan and I are having dinner. I hung up, felt nothing. Guilt requires you to believe you've done something wrong. I'd just protected my husband from people who'd already proven they couldn't be trusted. Jordan and I started Monroe and Slate 2 months later. Equal partnership. Real estate development meets infrastructure technology. His software. My knowledge of development and municipal relationships. Together. Actually together. We bought a small commercial building downtown, nothing fancy, but ours. Renovated the top floor into office space. Started pitching on projects Monroe Development used to dominate. Our angle was different. We offered integrated solutions. development and technology from the same team, no licensing negotiations, no coordination headaches. Just streamlined projects that actually worked. Clients loved it, especially municipalities burned by projects that ran over timeline because construction and technology teams couldn't coordinate. Within 3 months, we had 2 contracts. Within 6 months, 4. Small projects, but profitable, sustainable. We built slowly, carefully, no investor pressure, no board demanding quarterly growth, just 2 people building something that made sense. My father's way was flash big deals, big promises, big risks. Ours was steady, boring, reliable, and it worked. We hosted our first investor dinner 10 months after starting the company. Nothing extravagant, rooftop garden venue, good food, honest presentations about our approach and results. 40 people RSVP'd, municipal contract officers, small investors, industry consultants, people who cared about substance over flash. 3 days before the event, someone submitted a last-minute RSVP. Gregory Monroe, Jordan. Showed me the registration. What do you want to do? Lose it. What? Lose his name. Technical glitch. Server error. Whatever. He's not invited. You sure? Completely. The night of the event, security had very clear instructions. Gregory Monroe was not on the list. If he showed up, he'd be politely turned away. He showed up. I watched from inside as security stopped him at the entrance. Watched him argue. Watched him finally leave, walking back to his car with his shoulders slightly stooped. For the first time in my life, my father didn't get what he wanted just because he was Gregory Monroe. It felt better than I'd expected. The letter arrived 2 weeks later, handwritten, my father's precise script. Layla, I've spent the past year thinking about what happened, about the choices I made. I was wrong. Not just about Jordan, about everything. I thought I was protecting you by steering you toward the right kind of life. Really, I was trying to control you, to make you fit. The vision I had instead of supporting who you actually are. Jordan is a good man, a successful man, someone who built something real without asking for handouts or connections. I should have seen that. I should have asked questions. I miss my daughter. Not the version I wanted you to be. The actual person, the one who's building a better company than I ever did. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know I was proud of you, even when I was too stubborn to show it. Love, Dad. I read it 3 times. Felt something shift. Not forgiveness. Exactly. Just acknowledgement. I put the letter in a drawer. Didn't respond. Maybe someday. Maybe not. Jordan found me standing in our home office, staring out the window. You okay? Yeah. Just thinking about how much changes in a year? Regrets? None. You? He pulled me close. Best decision I ever made. Marrying you? Even with all the family drama? Especially with the family drama? Showed me who you really are. Monroe Development merged with a larger firm 18 months after Jordan canceled the deal. Quiet merger. My father stepped back from day-to-day operations. Not retirement exactly, more like managed decline. Josh took over, trying to rebuild the reputation. It was slow work. I watched from a distance. Felt nothing. They were strangers now. People I used to know. Connections severed cleanly. Monroe and Slate continued growing. We hired 6 people, landed a major city contract, got profiled in a tech infrastructure trade magazine. The article mentioned my background briefly. Layla Monroe Slate, daughter of prominent developer Gregory Monroe, chose a different path. No details about the disownment, no family drama, just facts. That was enough. 2 years after our wedding, Jordan and I went back to the cabin in Oregon, same place where we'd gotten married. We'd quietly bought it, landlord was selling, we made an offer, it became ours. We sat on the porch drinking coffee, watching, fog roll across the lake. You ever think about reconciling with your father? Jordan asked. Sometimes, but I don't know what that would look like. He hurt me, deep, and he only reached out when it cost him something. Fair. Does that make me cold? Makes you honest. You don't owe him access just because he's your father. Family is earned, not automatic. I leaned against him. How'd you get so wise? I married someone who taught me what integrity looks like. We sat there until the sun burned through fog, turning the water gold. I found the original contract proposal in our files a few weeks later. The Monroe Development Licensing Agreement Jordan had declined. Massive document, hundreds of pages, terms that undervalued Slate's software by nearly 60%. Licensing fees that would have locked Jordan into years of underpaid work. My father's team had tried to exploit Jordan's small company status, assumed he'd take any deal just to land a major client. They'd underestimated him, assumed tech startup meant desperate. I printed the cover page, took a red pen and wrote across the top, "Rejected, not for sale," mailed it to Monroe Development headquarters. No return address, no note. Jordan saw the empty envelope on my desk. "What'd you send?" "Closure," he smiled. "Good." My desk at Monroe and Slate overlooks downtown Seattle. On the credenza behind my chair, I keep 2 framed photos. On the left, our wedding day. Jordan and me in that cabin, rain falling, his mom's lopsided cake in the background, both of us crying and laughing and completely sure we were making the right choice. On the right, a quote, "Jordan gave me the day we met." I'd asked what drove him, what made success meaningful. He'd answered without hesitation. "Build quietly, let the results talk." I'd written it down that night, kept it all this time, because he was right. The noise doesn't matter. The flashy announcements and public validation and desperate need to be seen, none of that matters. What matters is building something real, something that stands on its own, something nobody can take from you. My father built an empire on connections and control and carefully managed reputation. Jordan built a company on solving real problems, on steady growth, on keeping promises. I chose the man who understood that power doesn't announce itself, it just works. 3 years after being disowned, I run a successful company with my husband. We're profitable. We're happy. We're building something that matters. My father thought he was cutting off dead weight. Really, he was cutting off his own future. The results spoke for themselves, quietly, powerfully, permanently, and I never looked back.